Behind the Scenes with Lewis Hawkins.
Hello everybody and welcome to The Start Was Wright. This documentary will take a look at the interesting events at the beginning of Edgar Wright's career, how this has shaped his career and how it's impacting his work to this day. Edgar Wright is arguably one of the UK's most celebrated and talented directors. Wright's career started 26 years ago, and in this time he's brought the Cornetto trilogy, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, Baby Driver and many more films to our screens. Wright's first film to be released mainstream was Shaun of the Dead, an instant hit. This was one of his most successful and possibly one of the UK's favourite films, and Wright found himself seen as a respected and popular director only 9 years after his career started. But how did he get here? Wright is a 46-year-old who grew up in Wales, Somerset, and this is where his passion started, with Wright making films with his friends and whatever equipment they had. However, Wright's career did not fully start until 1995 when the making of his first official film, A Fistful of Fingers, wrapped up.
Did you ever feel 21 years ago when you made Series 1, when you wrote and made Series 1, that 21 years later people would still be obsessed with it? It would be an iconic show in the history of British television.
I would be lying if I said I didn't fantasise that.
At the time Wright found himself trying to enter the industry, there was a large problem. With jobs in the media industry being so sought after, there were no opportunities. Young filmmakers had very few chances to prove themselves. So for this reason, many people began grouping together, hoping to give the young filmmakers the chance they needed to succeed. One man particularly, Elliot Grove, formed the Independent Film Workshop, a brilliant organisation that led to many successes.
I started the Independent Film Workshop about 5 years ago because I wanted to dispel the mystique about 35mm feature filmmaking. Today we're starting to make a film. We're shooting on 35mm, but we have a budget of absolutely zero.
Actors and crew would often work for free, equipment was donated and loans were gained. The industry worked together to help these filmmakers get noticed. The idea was that by proving themselves with a low budget film, they could get noticed and work their way up. And there were successes coming from this. One of these would soon be Edgar Wright, who was one of the ambitious filmmakers making this film, A Fistful of Fingers.
I remember hearing at the time when we were filming that something like Jurassic Park they did 12 setups a day and they considered that really fast moving. And on one of the days we did 75 setups.
Wright and his devoted crew worked hard to make his film a reality, and one with the highest standards possible. With the time and resources they had, the 75-minute film, which was a parody of many Western movies, sees all the usual Western characters appear as Walter Marshall and his Native American sidekick Running Saw track down the man who killed his horse.
And then we managed to sort of raise for the shooting budget about sort of 15,000 from the local businessman, and he was aware of the stuff that I'd done, involved in festivals and stuff. And so it's quite sort of like jumping in there and hoping that you might get the money to finish it off.
This process paid off as soon Wright was left with a completed version of A Fistful of Fingers and he could begin promoting it.
Once the film was all probably finished, it was a case of shopping it around. And eventually the small distributor picked it up, Blue Dolphin, who picked it up and got it shown at one cinema in the country, at the Prince Charles.
Whilst it appears quite a small feat, this showing was vital as it got Wright noticed. Higher-ups in the industry had a showcase of Wright's talent, and they could make the decision whether they wanted to work with him and give him a chance. One of these higher-ups was David Williams. He was impressed with Wright's work and helped him create the show Asylum, where he was able to show both his writing and directing skills once again. Wright now had a name within the industry, as well as several close friends and colleagues such as Bill Bailey, Jessica Hines and Simon Pegg. Paramount, the company who had produced Asylum, were eager for the two actors and writers of Jess and Simon to work together. Once the idea was proposed, nothing else seemed to move forward. This was, however, until Wright decided to come on board with the project, and by 1999, the show was born, with the first episode of Space being broadcast in September. This project saw new actors, such as Nick Frost, Mark Heap and Julia Deakin, as well as the friends from before.
Hello? Oh, hi Mike. Yeah, it's here. I'll just get him. It's your boyfriend.
He's not my boyfriend. Hi, babe.
Hello, Timmy. Sheffield.
You doing in Sheffield?
Fell asleep on the tube.
In Spaced, we see the emergence of some of Wright's most famous filmmaking techniques, directing both seasons of Spaced, which lasted from 1999 till 2001 and had 14 episodes. Wright managed to prove his talents once again. The first scene of the show shows this as we see Daisy and Tim, the two main characters. We know nothing about them yet, so are very easily misled. Edgar frames the shots in such a way we cannot see the surroundings and believe that Tim and Daisy are talking to each other, when in fact they're in completely different places and in a completely different situation to what we were originally led to believe. This idea of misleading the audience into thinking we're seeing one event when it's in fact a completely different event is repeated at least once every episode, and is often used hand in hand with fast shots that jump around a lot. The fast cuts are definitely a staple of the show, with subtle humour being used a lot. Fast cuts between different characters' faces casually show comical reactions and make these moments a lot funnier and more interesting, and they go hand in hand with the music, sound effects, camera angles and effects to achieve every moment of the show in the best way possible. These themes throughout the show make the show so much more engaging and funny, and is a large reason why, despite only having 2 seasons, it's so iconic.
I feel like it was just that kind of perfect sort of collision of 3 sort of ambitious people.
The series was unarguably a hit. The relatable style of the show and its laid-back nature made it popular with audiences at the time who felt it was an accurate yet funny depiction of life, and overall, every element of the show made it stand out, enjoyable and funny. With this show's fame, Wright and Pegg formed a partnership and started working together towards bigger and better things. Making $30 million USD in the box office, Shaun of the Dead was a very popular film, winning 13 awards. The film, which was a parody of zombie movies, sees Shaun go about his day-to-day life oblivious to the zombie apocalypse until it's too late and he's forced to fight to save his loved ones. In this film, Wright brought his styles and techniques to the big screen, and they were met with lots of popularity. Wright takes an obvious page out of space books and begins the film by subverting our expectations. We begin thinking it's just Shaun in the bar until we hear Liz's voice, and the camera cuts to her. We then see the couple talking about each other's friends in a very private way. However, as the conversation goes on, it's revealed that the friends are actually there with them. This scene uses fast cuts and quick pans to reveal the characters, both very iconic techniques of Wright, and they work perfectly to reveal the characters in a comical and surprising way. There are countless more perfect uses of masterful camera angles that can only be experienced by watching the film. This hard work and attention to detail is not just unique to Shaun of the Dead and the projects beforehand. It's something that Wright has continued to do since his rise to fame. A great example of how every film has the same brilliant styles and themes is Hot Fuzz. The bizarre plot is the perfect parody of several police and crime films. Wright and Pegg watched over 130 action films and talked to police whilst writing the movie, and it paid off. We see a number of returning cast members, and Wright delivered his signature look with many fast cuts, using 5,500 cuts to ensure a fast-paced style that mimics the action movies. I believe that the issues Wright faced at the beginning of his career caused him to push himself to the very extreme, which allowed him to create the fan-favourite films and shows we have today. It's clear that the struggles in the beginning did not hold Wright back, as he proved himself a talented director and writer with a huge range of films and shows that stand out as detailed and hilarious masterpieces.